You are now listening to the sounds of Dr. B's Spot, a production of Bowden Enterprise Services, LLC. Join the podcast where love and life topics are discussed surrounding spiritual connection, relationships, finance, and becoming a better you through elevation. And now, here's your host, spiritual advisor and behavioral health clinician, Dr. B.
Welcome back to another session of Dr. B's Spot, Loving Life. I'm your host, your spiritualist, your intuitive healer, Dr. B. We are back in business and back in action, back with the truth, back with the fire, and back with the word your spirit didn't know it needed. Today's message is titled, Too Much or Just Too True, When Clarity Scares the Unready. And today, I want to speak to the ones who've ever been called too much, when in reality, you were just too true. This episode is for the seers, the lovers, the deep feelers, the women and men who walk into a room and accidentally start triggering people just by existence. You weren't loud, you were accurate, you weren't needy, you were clear, and for those that couldn't handle it, they didn't leave because of your flaw. They left because of your flame. Or you had to either depart from the flame or because of all the flaws. So let's talk about it. Let's break it down. Segment 1. You weren't too much. They just didn't know what to do with someone that real. You've heard it before. You're too intense. You feel too much. You think too deeply. And yet you couldn't, or they couldn't stay away in the beginning, right? That same energy they now call too much is what drew them in. Here's what I've learned. People will praise your presence until it starts to reflect their absence. They'll call your clarity a threat when it starts disrupting their comfort and confusion. And that's when the shift happens. They don't ghost because you hurt them. They ghost because they're not ready to face themselves in a mirror you've become. They were okay with your strength until the strength no longer served them, until it started asking questions, until it stopped accommodating their chaos. Suddenly, the very qualities they admired became inconvenient. What they called too much was actually just honesty without sugar. And let's be clear, some people aren't allergic to you. They're allergic to your ability to see through them. And in a world where pretending is currency, authenticity will always be considered a threat. But you didn't come to perform, you came to be, and that's exactly what scared them. Next segment, the mirror principle and what your presence awakens. Let me say something that might fill or free somebody today. You didn't ruin their peace. You revealed their pretense. You see. Your present becomes a spiritual mirror, and not everyone is ready to see what's looking back at them. They start projecting their guilt, their past, their internal war onto you, because it's easier to say, you overwhelm me, than to admit, I don't know how to handle someone who won't shrink for me. When someone blocks, unfollows, or silences you, it's not power, it's panic, it's not strength, it's avoidance. They're not afraid of your chaos, they're afraid of your clarity. But sometimes you have to take accountability in certain situations if you're not just someone's cup of tea. You don't vibe with their mix or vice versa, so you don't need to enforce or push or impose yourself into their space or self. There's no need to look cray-cray or put yourself in awkward situations. That part is a disclaimer for those who may distort the truth and are unable to decipher fact from fiction. These point of view scenarios are for advanced or evolved individuals that I'm speaking of at this moment in time. But I always have to throw a disclaimer just in case for mental health reasons. So these point of view scenarios are for advanced evolved individuals trying to decompartmentalize certain situations that should be mentally acknowledged, then rerouted and or discarded from the forefront of your memory bank. This is about moving forward positively. Now let's resume. Listen, people don't always disappear because you were wrong. Sometimes they disappear because you were right. They wanted your light until it started illuminating their shadows, until your questions started unraveling the stories they told themselves, until your love made their neglect or self more obvious. And when you love deeply, it forces people to ask themselves what they accepted as normal. Some people would rather run than reckon. Some would rather ghost than grow. So let it be what it is. Your presence didn't just show them who you were, it reminded them of who they had the potential to become. And not everyone is ready to rise to that level of truth. On the next segment here, we want to talk about how they rewrite the story to protect their ego. You ever had someone mistreat you, leave you, and then try to make you the villain? In their head, just to justify their exit. You were loyal, you were solid, you poured in, and now they act like you broke into their home and rearranged their furniture. Or stole their man, or stole their woman, or whatever the case may be. Listen to me. That narrative has nothing to do with who you are. That's their ego. Writing a survival script. That's their shame saying we need to blame her or him before we admit we fumbled the blessing. But here's what's divine. You don't need to defend yourself in rooms where you've already been dismissed. Their fear of facing you is evidence of what your presence actually did. You awakened them. And awakening can feel like destruction when someone's been sleeping too long. You were their truth serum in human form. You were the antidote to their patterns. And that terrified them. And now to live with themselves, they have to edit the story to make themselves feel like the hero. He, row, she, row. Pick your point. Pick whichever one you want. But their version of you will never hold weight in divine court. Spirit knows the truth. You know the truth. And even if their ego buries it, their soul remembers. The greatest flex. You don't have to clap back. You don't have to respond. Your evolution is the rebuttal. Your peace is the protest. Segment 4. From sanctuary to scapegoat. What spiritually happens when you become the mirror. See, when you become a safe place, a refuge, a lover, a partner, or a friend, whom you developed a relationship and or friendship or partnership with depth, people who are not healed will start treating you like a danger. Why? Because love with structure, love with depth, requires them to show up whole. You may have helped them breathe. You helped them calm down. You held space for their anxiety, PTSD, depression, bipolar, OCD, panic disorder, their confusion, their trauma. And then they turned on you when you started requiring honesty. Why? Because now the medicine had a name. Now the healing required participation. They weren't ready. People will drink from your well, then claim they were never thirsty. That's spiritual betrayal. Perhaps they don't have the proper tools to allow you to fix the situation. Because perhaps you're just unqualified to be the fixer-up. But the beautiful thing is, their leaving or your departure didn't empty you. It revealed how deep you were. You can do all bad by yourself, right? Or either that bad can actually manifest into something great that you are being too distracted from to focus on your own level up. You were the healing they didn't know they needed and couldn't handle when it arrived. You were the prayer they prayed until it demanded transformation. They didn't reject you because you were toxic. They rejected you because you were transformative. And transformation terrifies people who only wanted temporary relief. The hardest thing, realizing you were never loved for your fullness, only for the pieces they could benefit from. But your overflow will never be wasted. God collects every drop. In this segment, we'll talk about closure without permission. This is your reminder. You don't need their apology to forgive. You don't need their call to close the chapter. You can forgive without re-inviting. You can bless them without reopening the door. And for the ones who removed you, unfollowed you, silenced you, bless them. because your presence probably whispered to their spirit louder than any words could. You were the altar they prayed at, but didn't keep holy. You were the peace they asked for, but didn't know how to live with. You were the truth they weren't ready for, but now can't unknow. You don't owe anyone a post-trauma performance. You don't have to explain your healing to those who didn't value your hurting. Let your silence testify. Forgiveness is not a bridge, it's a boundary. It says, I release you, but I reserve my peace, and that's sacred. This is your moment to breathe. Not because they made it right, but because you chose to stop carrying what was never yours. To everyone listening who has ever been made to feel like they were the wreckage, hear me. You were the revelation, and revelation always causes tremors before it settles. So if you've ever been ghosted, blocked, or turned into a villain for simply living and loving in fullness, I want you to know you weren't too much. You were just too true. And truth doesn't apologize for being whole. You are unique to someone, even when that person or people try to discard or dissuade you, who you really were to them. There's always another that will see your full potential and welcome you in the fullness of who you are without trying to diminish your light path. You were the turning point in someone's story, the divine disruption, the alarm clock to a soul stuck on snooze. And they may not thank you now, but the echo of your love will linger long after. You don't have to perform. You don't have to shrink. You are enough in your raw, radiant fullness, and that truth will set not just you, but others free. Thank you for existing as you are. May your voice never go silent. May your clarity remain unshaken. May your heart stay open, but guarded by wisdom. Thank you for tuning in to Dr. B's Spot, Love and Life. I hope this message has reached you in a beneficial and divine way. If this episode resonated with you, please like and share it with someone who could use a fresh perspective. Until next time, be blessed with less stress. Much love, Dr. B, and I'm out.
Join us next time at Dr. B's Spot, where we dive into the real deal of love and life by tapping into your body, mind, and spirit. Don't forget to like, rate, and comment on each podcast that we drop. For all upcoming shows, reach Dr. B and all she has to offer on BowdenEnterprise.com and social media outlets under the moniker Bowden Enterprise Services. Peace and blessings to you and yours. We are out.